to another edition of Saluting New Readers. My name is Sheri Doerr, and today I invite you to listen to the stories of my 5th grade students from Mount St. Mary's School.
Hello, my name is Alex Combs, and I'm reading Davy Crockett. There are 2 Davy Crockett's. One is the real man, the one who fought in the Creek Indian Wars. One famous as sharpshooter and bear hunter, and was elected to Congress. This Davy Crockett even thought he might someday be president of the United States. The other Davy Crockett is a man of legend. He is the larger-than-life Davy Crockett that people created in their imaginations. Storytellers had Davy doing just about everything, from wrestling bears and scaring an alligator up Niagara Falls to straddling a bolt of lightning and catching a flaming comet by the tail. This book tells the story of the real Davy Crockett. His adventures fighting Creek warriors, hunting bears, and braving the Mississippi River are amazing enough without being exaggerated to tall tales. But you'll read some of the tall tales too. A book about Davy Crockett wouldn't be complete without saying that Davy loved to tell humorous and eye-popping stories. Later, people would make up tales that Davy himself would be too far outrageous so he can imagine. Davy wrote about some of the adventures in his autobiography, a narrative of the life of Davy Crockett of the state of Tennessee. Many of the quotes in this book come from it. Hearing Davy's own words helps you get the full flavor of the colorful frontiersman. As you read the story of the real Davy Crockett, try to spot some of the adventures that storytellers could have later puffed into enormous tall tales. A little boy with a red angry face stood beside by the river. His name was Davy Crockett. Davy was fighting mad. His 4 older brothers had paddled out into the river in a canoe, and they hadn't let Davy go with them. Instead, they had taken a neighbor named Campbell. Campbell was about 15 years old. All Davy's brothers were younger than that. As for Davy, he couldn't have been more than 4 or 5. He hated being left out of things just because he was the youngest. Thank you for listening to me read. If you would like to read the rest of this book, please check it out at your local library.
Hi, my name is Annalisa Zelli, and I'm going to be reading Benjamin Franklin. If you lived in Boston in the early 1700s, you couldn't get away from water. The city was surrounded by water. On one side was the harbor that led to the Atlantic Ocean. On the other was the Charles River. There were plenty of lakes, ponds, and marshes all around. One day in one of those marshes, a group of boys was playing in the water trying to net fish. "I've caught one," cried a boy. A silvery fish flopped and wiggled in his net. "We could catch a lot more fish if this water weren't so muddy," one of the boys said. "I have an idea," another declared. "Oh, Ben Franklin has another idea," his friends laughed. "Another big idea. Don't my ideas make sense?" Ben said. "Remember those swimming paddles I invented? Whoever used them could swim faster than anybody." The boys had to admit that Ben usually knew what he was talking about. Sometimes he seemed as smart as a grown-up, or even smarter. "So what's your idea?" one of his friends asked. "See those rocks?" Ben said, pointing to a big pile. "They're nice and square. If we pile them along the bottom of the salt marsh, pretty soon we'll have a wharf we can walk on. Then we can get where the fish are without getting our feet wet. Let's do it." "But wait," one cautious boy said. "Some workmen left the stones there. They're going to build a house with them." "But we need them for our wharf," Ben told them. "Now let's get to work." Ben couldn't resist any kind of project or adventure like this. It was fun to build things and see how they turned out. Thank you for listening to me read. If you would like to finish this book, please check it out at your local library.
Hi, I'm Anne Conley, and the book I'm going to read is called The Witch of Blackbird Pond. Is it foolishness that there scarce a house in this town that has a sick child in it? You do well to heed what we say, Matthew Wood. John Weatherall's boy died today. That makes 3 dead, and it's the witch's doing. Who's doing? What are you driving at, ma'am? The Quaker woman's down by Blackbird Pond. She's been a curse on this town for years with her witchcraft. The voices sounded hysterical. We should have run her out long ago. Time and again she's been seen consorting with the devil down in that meadow. Now she's put a curse on her children. God knows how many more will be dead before morning. This is nonsense, scoffed Matthew Wood impatiently. There's no old woman, and no witchcraft either could bring on a plague like this. What is it then? Shrilled the woman's voice. Matthew passed a hand over his forehead. The will of God, he began helplessly. The curse of God, you mean, another voice screamed. His judgment on us for harboring an infidel and a Quaker. You better come with us, Matthew. Your own daughter's likely to die. You can't deny it. I'll have naught to do with it, said Matthew firmly. I'll hold with no witch hunt. You better hold with it, the woman's voice shrilled suddenly. You better look to the witch in your own household. Ask that high and mighty niece of yours where she spends her time. Another woman shouted from the darkness. Ask her what she knows about your mercy sickness. The weariness dropped suddenly from Matthew Wood. His shoulders thrown back, he seemed to tower in the doorway. Begone from my house, he roared, his caution drowned in anger. How dare you speak the name of a good, God-fearing girl? Any man who slanders one of my family has me to reckon with. There was a silence. No harm meant, a man's voice said uneasily. 'Tis only woman's talk. If you won't come, there's plenty more in the town who will, said another. What are we wasting our time for? The voices receded down the pathway, rising again in the darkness beyond. Matthew bolted the door and turned back to the dumbfounded women. Did they wake her? He asked dully. No, sighed Rachel. Not even that could disturb her, poor child. For a moment there was no sound but that of tortured breathing. Kit had risen to her feet and stood clinging to the table's edge. Now the new fear that was stifling her broke from her lips in an anguished whisper. If you'd like to find out what happens next in the book, you can check it out in your local library.
Hi, my name is Brian, and I'm going to be reading The Air, the Eye, and the Arm. Chapter 4. Mother lightened the window of the stretched limo and looked down on the city beneath. Mount Hamden had to pass on their right, glittering with solar panels to catch the energy of the sun. That's a nice place to live, she thought. Still, it was hard to find fault with Matthew, and the crime rate was certainly low. Not that any with half a brain would mess with General Matt's guy. She smiled fondly at her husband. What was it the miller said? The general was a great tree whose branches protected them, or something like that. The miller certainly knew how to put things. She was lucky to have a live-in praise singer. Adam was suspicious at first. He thought the complaints were for sissies, but he changed his mind after the first few sessions. The limo changed direction and headed for the university. The Chinese delegation was suffering from a rocket lag and wouldn't show up for another hour. She had time for a leisurely cup of tea. Mother sighed with contentment. Now they are passing over the gray ruin of Dead Man's Vale. Mother looked regretfully at the ancient mountains of garbage. What a shame so much land went to waste in the garbage in the middle of the city. What could one do? It had been contaminated with toxic chemicals over a century ago. They said people lived in Dead Man's Vale. Not nice people. Not people she'd invite for tea in Mazu. Mother wondered idly what the children were up to. They were so restless in the hot weather. Then I kept nagging about a scout trip. Wait a minute, thought Mother. Something happened during the middle session this morning. It was odd how difficult it was to remember what the man said. It was pleasant, of course. She could listen all day. But often she couldn't remember why she felt happy. The scout trip, something about the scout trip. She looked over at Adams and saw him frown as though he were trying to remember too. In her mind's eye, Mother saw 2 cards on the dining room table. Adams had placed them there. There were, oh my worry, pass cards. Mother and Father looked up at each other and at the same time. Curse that Miller, said Father. Turn this limo around at once. The chaff flew a figure 8 and reacted to the General's furious voice. He straightened out and made a beeline for Mazu. If you would like to find out how this book ends, please check it out at your local library.
We moved on Tuesday before Labor Day. I knew what the weather was like the second I got up. I was really surprised when I came home from camp and I found out our New York apartment had been rented to another family and that we own a house in Fairbrook, New Jersey. First of all, I never heard of Fairbrook, and second of all, I am not usually left out of important family decisions. But when I got grounded, why New Jersey? I was told Long Island is too social, Westchester is too expensive, and Connecticut is too inconvenient. So Fairbrook, New Jersey it was, where my father could commute his job in Manhattan, where I could go to public school, and where my mother could have all the grass, trees, and flowers she would ever want. Except I never knew she wanted the stuff in the first place. The new house on Moneybird Lane isn't bad, but it's parts brick, part wood. The shutters and front door are painted black. Also, there is a very nice brass knocker. Even every house on the new street looks a lot the same. They are 7 years old. So are the trees. I think we left the city because of my grandmother. I can't figure out any other reason for the move, especially since my mother says Grandma is too much of an influence on me. It's no big secret in our family that Grandma sends me to summer camp in New Hampshire, and she enjoys paying my private school tuition. She even knits me sweaters that have labels sewed inside, made especially for you by Grandma. And she doesn't do all that because we're poor. I know for the fact that we're not. We aren't rich, but we certainly have enough. Especially since I'm only child. That cuts down the weight on food and clothes. I know this family that has 7 kids, and every time they go to shoe store, it costs a bundle. My mother and father didn't plan for me to be an only child, but that's the way it worked out, which is fine with me because this way I don't have anybody around to fight with. If you'd like to read the rest of the story, check it out at your local library.
Hi, I'm David Zeeler, and I'm going to be reading Basher 5-2. In the early afternoon of June 2nd, 1995, as I sat in my F-16 ready for takeoff from Avellino Air Base in northeastern Italy, I had no idea what fate had in store. I could never have imagined that in the next 6 days I would have my plane shot out from under me with a missile, run for my life as soldiers hunt me down, eat leaves and ants to survive, make friends with a couple of cows, and be rescued by United States Marines. And that was only part of the ordeal. Afterward, I would call it the adventure of a lifetime. Maybe that's an understatement. It was an adventure of 2 lifetimes. That summer, as a U.S. Air Force captain, I was one of the 31st American pilots assigned to the 555th Fighter Squadron, or the triple nickel of the 31st Fighter Wing. Our uniforms boasted a Velcro patch of a fierce bald eagle, the insignia of a triple nickel, and another patch showing a winged dragon to identify the 31st Fighter Wing. We were stationed in Italy as part of a North Atlantic Territory organization air team. To the east of Italy, across the Adriatic Sea, was Bosnia and Herzegovina, a part of the Banks, and a country in the midst of a painful civil war. Thank you for listening to me read. If you want to finish this book, check it out at your local library.
Hi, my name is Ellie Mead, and I will be reading Days with Frog and Toad. Toad woke up. Drat, he said, this house is a mess. I have so much work to do. Frog looked through the window. Toad, you're right, said Frog. It is a mess. Toad pulled the covers over his head. I will do it tomorrow, said Toad. Today I will take life easy. Frog came into the house. Toad, 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 said Frog. Your pants and jacket are lying on the floor. Tomorrow, said Toad, from under the covers. Your kitchen sink is filled with dirty dishes, said Frog. Tomorrow, said Toad, there is dust on your chairs. Tomorrow, said Toad, your windows need scrubbing, said Frog. Your plants need watering. Tomorrow, cried Toad, I will do it all tomorrow. Toad sat on the edge of his bed. I feel down in the dumps. Why? Asked Frog. I'm thinking about tomorrow, said Toad. I'm thinking about all the many things that I will have to do. Yes, said Frog, tomorrow will be a very hard day for me. But Frog, said Toad, if I pick up my pants and jacket right now, then I will not have to pick them up tomorrow, will I? No, said Frog, you will not have to. Toad picked up his clothes. He put them in the closet. Frog, said Toad, if I wash my dishes right now, then I will not have to wash them tomorrow, will I? No, said Frog, you will not have to. Toad washed and dried his dishes. He put them in the cupboard. Frog, said Toad, if I dust my chairs and scrub my windows and water my plants right now, then I will not have to do it tomorrow, will I? No, said Frog, you will not have to do any of it. Toad dusted his chairs, he scrubbed his windows, he watered his plants. There, said Toad, now I feel better. Thank you for listening to me read. If you want to see how this book ends, check it out at your library.
Hi, my name is Emily, and I'm going to be reading The Little Gymnast, Chapter 1. Anna Barnes rubbed her hands on the back of her jeans. There was only one way up to the church roof, up the drain pipe. She shook it, feeling its age and its rust. A man's weight might have torn it from the wall, but it was strong enough for a girl as small as Anna. Leaning back and pressing her sneakers into the wall, she went up like a spider-man. She put her arms around a stone gargoyle that looked down at her. With a heave and wriggle, she was on the roof, her heart beating against the mossed tiles. Above her, the branch of a tall beech tree swept and dipped in the wind. Earlier that day, a tiny black and white kitten climbed the tree and made its way along the branch, looking for a way down. Thin twigs had bent, tipping the kitten onto the roof, leaving it stranded. Now it clung, black-eyed and loud-voiced, on the apex of the roof. Its meows had filled the village, and someone had called the fire department. But it seemed to Anna that the fire department was not going to turn out for one tiny ball of meowing fluff on the church roof. So she decided to rescue it herself. There was the roof going steeply up toward the sky. Anna had lost sight of the kitten, which was on the other side of the bell tower. She lay on her stomach and crawled up the roof bit by bit. The watching crowd saw heat appear over the crest of the roof. They cheered. Someone must have got a ladder. Then they fell silent. The blonde head with its twirl of hair and bird-like face belonged to a child in blue jeans and a blue tracksuit top. My God, there's a child up there. Go back, you silly little girl, bellowed a big, round man waving fat hands at Anna. No one in their right mind would get up there. Don't tell her to go back, she'll fall. Keep still, shrieked an old lady. Who is it? Whose little girl is that? It's the child from that tumble-down cottage out at Hooty Cove, said the old lady. I'll bet her parents don't know where she is. They keep goats, said a little boy, and chickens. I seen them. Amanda kept calling, ignoring their shouts. A rush of rain pelted the leafy churchyard. The wet roof shone bright and slippery. Carefully, Amanda stood up. The next bit was easy. A narrow ledge ran along to the top, straight to the bell tower. She stepped down and balance walked quickly along. Thank you for listening to me read. If you'd like to hear the rest of this story, please check it out at your local library.
Hi, my name is Emma Smith, and I will be reading Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. As they entered November, the weather turned very cold. The mountains around the school became icy gray, and the lake like chilled steel. Every morning, the ground was covered in frost. Hagrid could be seen from the upstairs windows defrosting broomsticks on the Quidditch field. Bundled up in a long moleskin overcoat, rabbit fur gloves, and enormous beaver skin boots, the Quidditch season had begun. On Saturday, Harry would be playing in his first match after weeks of training, Gryffindor versus Slytherin. If Gryffindor won, they would move up in second place in the house championship. Hardly anyone had seen Harry play because Wood had decided that as their secret weapon, Harry should be kept well secret, but the news that he was playing secret had leaked out somehow, and Harry didn't know which was worse. People telling him he'd be brilliant or people telling him they'd be running around underneath him holding a mattress. It was really lucky that Harry now had Hermione as a friend. He did not know how he'd have gotten through all his homework without her. What with all the last-minute Quidditch practice Wood was making them do. She had also lent him Quidditch Through the Ages, which turned out to be a very interesting read. Harry learned that there were 700 ways of committing a Quidditch foul, and that all of them had happened during a World Cup match in 1473, that seekers were usually the smallest and fastest players, and that most serious Quidditch accidents seemed to happen to them. That although people rarely died playing Quidditch, referees had been known to vanish and turn up months later in the Sahara Desert. Hermione had become a bit more relaxed about breaking rules since Harry and Ron had saved her from the mountain troll, and she was much nicer for it. The day before Harry's first Quidditch match, the three of them were out in the freezing courtyard during break, and she had conjured them up a bright blue fire that could be carried around in a jam jar. They were standing with their backs to it, getting warm when Snap crossed the yard. Harry noticed at once that Snap was limping. Harry and Ron and Hermione moved closer together to block the fire from view. They were sure it wouldn't be allowed. Unfortunately, something about the guilty faces caught Snap's eye. He limped over. He hadn't seen the fire, but he seemed to be looking for a reason to tell them off anyway. Thank you for listening to me read. If you would like to find out how this story ends, check it out at your local library.
Hi, my name is Joe. I'll be reading from the Mixed Up Files of Mrs. Basil E. Frankweiler. After 10 minutes lag time, Jamie tugged the hem of Claudia's jacket and they cautiously got up. Jamie led the way back up the great stairway. As he did so, his logic became clear to Claudia. Thank goodness, Jamie thought so clearly so fast, and thank goodness for those 20 acres of floor space. It would take the watchman more than an hour before he passed that way again. They stealthily climbed the wide stairway, staying close to the rail. Step, pause, all the way up to the top until they found themselves in front of the pedestal on which Angel had stood just the day before. Claudia paused to look, partly from habit and partly because anything associated with Angel was precious. Jamie paused to catch his breath. Why do you think they changed the velvet under her from blue to gold? Claudia whispered. This blue probably got dirty. Come on, let's hide. Claudia looked again at the velvet. Light was beginning to seep into the museum. Something on top of the velvet caught her eye. On the workroom, one of the workmen must have been drinking beer when he moved this statue. Most people drink beer, Jamie said. What's so unusual about that?
They don't let visitors bring in beer, answered Claudia. I wonder why they allow the workers to do it. What if he had spilled it on Angel? See where he must have put his beer can on the platform? She pointed to the blue velvet covering the pedestal. See the rings where the pile of the velvet isn't crushed? James said, yeah, Valentine beer. Those 3 rings. Then he began humming a commercial that he had heard during the baseball game on television last week. Thank you for listening to me read. If you want to know how the story ends, check it out at your local library.
Hi, my name is Joey Goodnight, and I'm going to be reading Chapter 2 of Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. Harry went down to breakfast the next morning to find the 3 Dursleys already sitting around the kitchen table. They were watching a brand new television, a welcome home for the summer present for Dudley, who had been complaining loudly about the long walk between the fridge and the television in the living room. Dudley had spent most of the summer in the kitchen, his big little eyes fixed on the screen and his 5 chins wobbling as he ate continually. Harry sat down between Dudley and Uncle Vernon, a large beefy man with very little neck and a lot of mustache. Far from wishing Harry a happy birthday, none of the Dursleys made any sign that they had noticed Harry enter the room. But Harry was far too used to this to care. He helped himself to a piece of toast and then looked up at the reporter on the television, who was halfway through a report on an escaped convict. The public is warned that Black is armed and extremely dangerous. The special hotline has been set up, and any sighting of Black should be reported immediately. No need to tell us he's no good, snorted Uncle Vernon, staring over the top of his newspaper at the prisoner. Look at the state of him, the filth he lay about. Look at his hair. He shot a nasty look sideways at Harry, whose untidy hair had always been a source of great annoyance to Uncle Vernon. Compared to the man on the television, however, whose gaunt face was surrounded by a matted elbow-length tangle, Harry felt very well groomed indeed. The reporter had reappeared. The Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries will announce today. Hang on, barked Uncle Vernon, staring furiously at the reporter. You didn't tell us where that maniac escaped from. What use is that? The lunatic could be coming up the street right now. Aunt Petunia, who was bony and hoarse-faced, whipped around and peered intently out of the kitchen window. Harry knew Aunt Petunia would simply love to be the one to call the hotline number. She was the nosiest woman in the world and spent most of her life spying on the boring, law-abiding neighbors. When will they learn, said Uncle Vernon, pounding the table with his large fist, that hanging's the only way to deal with these people. Very true, said Aunt Petunia, who was still squinting at the next door runner beans. Thank you for listening to me read. If you want to find out what happens at the end of the book, check it out at your local library.
Hello, my name is Sheri Smith, and I'm going to be reading from Jackie Robinson. Jackie, what are you doing? You know we're not supposed to sit here, whispered Jack Gordon to his friend. The lights in the movie theater had just gone down. Quick as a cat, Jackie Robinson had scrambled from his seat into the whites only section. They won't pay any attention now. It's dark, Jackie whispered back. Besides, we paid the same money. We should sit where we want. You're gonna get us thrown out again, Jack cautioned his friend. You know what happened last time. Then the newsreel came on. News from all over the world in 1934 was of little interest to poor 15-year-old black boys. But suddenly Jackie's eyes widened as a film came on showing the professional debate of a black boxer named Joe Louis. Jackie couldn't stop himself from providing sound effects to go along with the exciting film. With each punch landing, Jack found himself shouting out, wham, bam, pow! Here was a black man competing as an equal against whites and winning a man of strength and power. What are you boys doing here? The usher whispered angrily, shining his flashlight on Jackie and his friend. Get out and stay out. The two boys, laughing and joking, ran out of the theater, the usher chasing them. "You'll never catch us," Jackie taunted as he raced into the street, and no one could catch Jackie. He was the fastest kid in the neighborhood, except for his brother Matt, who was already a high school track star. 2 blocks from the theater, Jackie and Jack stopped running and slapped each other on the back. They were both members in good standing of the Pepper Street gang and liked to act up. Despite Riley's teachings, young Jack and Robinson enjoyed the street gang, though their behavior was not very violent by today's standards. The gang did cause trouble. They would throw stones at passing cars, smash windows, and raid local orchards. For tonight, they had even bigger plans. "You know old man Carthers, who's always calling us names? Let's pay him back," a gang member suggested. "Why don't we put tar on his lawn?" said another. That night, the boys of the Pepper Street gang carried out their revenge. The next morning, the boys laughed and whooped it up when from afar they saw old man Carthers looking at his destroyed lawn. Thank you for listening to me read. If you'd like to hear what happens in the story, check it out at your local library.
Hello, my name is Kelsey Anderson, and I will be reading Paul Revere and the Sojourner of Living. Paul Revere is right. Listen, my children, and you shall hear of the midnight ride Paul Revere. On the 18th of April in 75, hardly a man is known alive who remembers that famous day and year. He said to his friend, "If the British march by land or sea from town tonight, hang a lantern aloft in the belfry arch of the North Church tower as a signal light, one if by land and two if by sea, and I on the opposite shore will be, ready to ride and spread the alarm to every Middlesex village and farm, for the country folk to be up and to arm." Then he said good night, and with a muffled oar silently rowed to the Charleston shore, just as the moon was over the bay, then swinging wide at her moorings lay the Somerset British man of war, a phantom ship of each mast and spar, across the moon like a prison bar, and a huge black hole that was magnified by its reflection in the tide. Meanwhile, his friend through alley and street wanders and watches with eager ears till in silence around him he hears the muster of the men at a barrack door, the sound of arms and the tramp of feet and the measured tread of janitors marching down to their boats on the shore. Then he climbed the tower of the old ruined church by wooden stairs and stealthily tread to the belfry chamber overhead, and startled the pigeons from their perch on the somber rafters that round him made masses of moving shapes of shade, by the trembling ladder steep and tall to the highest window in the wall, where he paused to listen and look down a moment on the roofs of the town, and the moonlight flowing over all. Thank you for listening to me read. If you want to learn more about this book, check it out at your local library. Hi, my name is Kiara, and I'll be reading from the Mixed Up Files of Mrs. Basiley Frankweiler. Do you see those filing cabinets along that wall? I asked, pointing to the south wall. Those are my secrets, and one of them is a secret of Michelangelo's angel. I'll share that secret with you as the rest of my bargain, but for now my information is more important than yours, so you must have a handicap. The handicap is that you must find the secret files yourself, and you have 1 hour to do it. I turned to leave, then remembered, and I don't want my files messed up or placed out of order. They're in a special order that makes sense only to me. If you move things around, I won't be able to find anything, and our whole arrangement will be off. Jamie spoke. You sure know how to nervous a guy. I laughed and left the room. I tiptoed into the large closet I have next to my office. From there, I watched and listened to all that they did. Jamie got up immediately and began opening file drawers. Claudia shouted, "Stop!" He did. "What's the matter with you, Claude? We have only 1 hour. 5 minutes of planning are worth 15 minutes of just looking. Quick, give me a pencil and notepad from that table." Jamie ran to get them. Claudia immediately began making the list. "Here's what we'll look up. I'll take the odd numbers, you take the even. I want odd. For goodness sake, Jamie, take the odds then. Here's the list Claudia wrote. Number 1, Michelangelo. Number 2, Buonarroti. Number 3, Angel. Number 4, Park Burnett Galleries. Number 5, Metropolitan Museum of Art. Number 6, Italian Renaissance. Number 7, Auctions. 8, Sculptor. 9, Marble. 10, Florence, Italy. And 11, Rome, Italy. Jamie looked over the list. I changed my mind. I'll take the evens. There's one less. Talk about wasting time, Claudia screamed. Take evens then, but get to it. They began to work very rapidly. Claudia once or twice cautioned Jamie not to make a mess. They had exhausted the list, odds as well as evens. There were folders on most of the categories they looked up, but upon examining them, they found not one hint of Angel. Claudia was feeling depressed. She looked at the clock. 6 minutes to go. Think, Jamie, think. What else can we look up? Jamie squinted his eyes, a sign that he was thinking harder. Look him up under... What kind of language is that? Look him up under. Oh, baloney, Claude. Why do you always pick on my grab? Baloney, baloney. That's it, Jamie. She bought Angel in Bologna, Italy. The paper said so. Look up Bologna. Both ran to the back to the files and pulled out a file folder fat with papers and documents. It was labeled Bologna, Italy. They knew even before opening it that it was the right one. I knew too they had found the file that held my secret. If you'd like to find out more about this story, check it out at your local library.
Hi, my name is Michael Christine, and I'll be reading from the Mixed Up Files, Mrs. Basil E. Franklin. To my lawyer, Saxonburg, I can't say that I enjoyed your last visit. It was obvious that you had too much on your mind to pay any attention to what I was trying to say. Perhaps if you had some interest in this world, besides taxes, law, and your grandchildren, you could almost be a fascinating person. Almost. That last visit was the worst pull. I won't risk another dull visit for a while, so I'm having Sheldon, my chauffeur, deliver his account to your home. I've written it to explain the changes I want made in my last will and testament. You'll understand those changes and a lot of other things much better after reading it. I'm sending you a carbon copy. I'll keep the original in my files. I don't come in until much later, but never mind. You'll find enough to interest you until I do. You never knew I could write this well, did you? Of course you don't actually know yet, but you soon will. I've spent a lot of time on this file. I've listened, I've investigated, and I've fitted all the pieces together like a jigsaw puzzle. It leaves no doubts. Will Saxonburg, read and discover. Miss Basil E. Franklin. Thank you for listening to me read. If you would like to find out how the book ends, please check it out at your local library.
Hi, my name is Neil, and I'm reading Daniel Boone Frontier Adventures. Some people like to stay in one place all their lives. They dislike change. They are afraid of new things and of being different from everyone around them. For them, the old ways are always the best. Other people love the challenge of new things and new places. They follow their own beliefs even if it's the unpopular thing to do. George and Mary Boone will like this. Leaving England for the American colonies in the early 1700s was a huge challenge, but that didn't stop the Boones and their 9 children from making the dangerous ocean crossings. They were looking forward to their new life in Pennsylvania. They had heard that the land there was cheap, plentiful, and produced fine crops. It was said that the woods were filled with wild game. The Boones knew that life in the frontier would not be easy, but they also believed that anyone willing to work hard could live a good life in this bountiful new land. The Boones also looked forward to practicing their religion freely. They were Quakers. In England, Quakers were treated harshly for their beliefs. There would be none of that in Pennsylvania. Thank you for listening to me read, and if you want to finish the story, please check it out at your local library.
Hello, my name is Taryn, and I'll be reading Great Unsolved Cases. Early on Friday morning, August 31st, 1888, George Cross was on his way to work. The sun was not up yet. The streets were dark and damp. The only light was the gas lamp at the far end of the street. He spotted a puddle of rags. When he looked at them, he saw that it was a woman's body. She had been stabbed to death. Cross looked around. The streets were quiet at this hour. The murderer must be gone. Cross didn't hear footsteps or a horse-drawn cat. The police learned the victim's name, Paula Nicholas. She had been murdered on the spot, but why hadn't she screamed? How did the murderer escape so easily? One reason was that people would not notice a man with blood on his clothes. Many such people would be seen in the East End. They worked in many slaughterhouses. A week later, the second body was found. Annie Chapman was killed in the same way Paula Nicholas. Her body was found in the back hallway of a boarding house. 17 people slept in this house, and no one heard anything. A woman had seen Annie earlier that night. Annie was standing outside the house. She was talking to a man about 40 years old who was wearing a hunting hat. Annie and Polly were like in many ways. They would walk the streets at night looking for men to buy them drinks. They often stayed in bars until very late. They walked home along the dark, empty streets. They had met Jack the Ripper. 2 weeks went by. Everyone waited to see if Jack would strike again. Suspects were questioned and released. Everyone had an alibi. A city and a nation held its breath, afraid another murder would happen. In the early hours of September 30th, a man was going to a club. He turned his pony cart into a courtyard. Suddenly, the pony stopped. The man looked down. He could not see what made the pony stop. Checking more closely, he saw a woman's body, and that she was either dead or drunk. If you'd like to learn more about this book, please check it out at your local library.
Hi, my name is Trini, and I'll be reading The Midwife's Apprentice by Karen Cushman. There was no sign of the devil on the manor road or in the woods on either side. Finally, the villagers started home, and there near Roger Mustard's cottage were the devil's prints, marching down the road past Dick Granny's cottage, around Walter Smith's farm, and up to the door of William DeReeve's cottage. Again the villagers flung open the door and again found the devil had been at work, for there was Watt finishing off William Reeve's leg of mutton dinner. The priest decided that Watt's gluttony and deceit were the fault of the devil and not of the boy, so Watt's face was not branded, but William Reeve's bad-tempered pigs were in his care from that day on. The next morning it was a larger group of villagers who followed the hoof prints to the woods where the broken-toothed Jack and his friends were clearing brush from Roger Mustard's field. Likely the devil had tricked the boys into laziness, for they were found asleep and given a sound beating. 2 days went by with no sign of the devil. The villagers grew calmer, thinking themselves fortunate not to have been tempted by the devil and found out in such a public fashion. Then, on a misty morning, the devil walked into the village again. But by this time no one had expected to catch him, but they were eager to see whom they would find in what sin. So all the village followed the prince except for the midwife, who was called to the manor at the last minute, and Alice, who was elsewhere. A parade of villagers laughed and gossiped out of the village and along the Old North Road. As they followed the prince through a field, they grew quiet. The prince stopped near a large tree, and so did the villagers. From behind the tree came a call. "Is that you, Jane, my dove?" And out leaped the baker, holding a bunch of Michaelmas daisies and a basket of bread before him. All was quiet. The baker's wife stepped forward and took the flowers as the villagers turned and walked away, leaving her to sort out which was the devil's work and what was the baker's. After departing, villagers passed the river at a spot where the water ran swift and deep. Alice stepped out of the woods. She took something from under her skirt, threw it into the river, and followed the crowd home. And so it was that all, except the fortunate midwife who had taunted or tormented Alice, were punished for their secret sins. After this, the devil was never seen in the village again, and no one but Alice knew why. If you would like to hear the end of this book, check it out at your local library.
Hi, my name is Tyler, and I will be reading White Fang. Wolves run in packs, when it is to their advantage to do so. When they are trying to kill a large animal for its meat, it is obviously helpful to have a few dozen attackers coming at the beast from all directions. 2 or 3 wolves might be driven off by flying hooves or thrusting antlers, but a whole pack of wolves will sooner or later wear down the largest victim. When game is plentiful, wolves no longer need to be in packs. A male and female wolf by themselves can catch enough rabbits, squirrels, and other small animals to satisfy their appetites. The wolf pack that nearly killed Henry remained together for a while, after being frightened away by the men who came to Henry's rescue. On the day following that incident, the starving wolves finally found meat to quiet their desperate hunger. They sighted moose grazing in a low plain, and in particular, they set their attention on a big bull moose who weighed more than 800 pounds. The size and the dangers posed to its mighty hooves and sharp antlers did not cause them to hesitate. They were a deadly wolf pack. Though some of them were broken and bleeding by the time it was done, they brought down the giant beast. The moose supplied meat for about 40 wolves. Each member of the pack filled his or her stomach with some 20 pounds of food. And that was just the beginning. In the following day, they feasted upon more moose and other game. Soon the pack started breaking up. First it split in half. The she-wolf went with the smaller pack, which was led by an old, one-eyed male wolf. That pack also broke up, with pairs of wolves, male and female, gradually going their separate ways. At last the she-wolf had only 3 companions. One was the one-eyed leader. There was also a younger leader and a 3-year-old male. Thank you for listening to me read. If you want to find out how the story ends, please check it out at your local library.
Hi, my name is Zoe McClarty, and I will be reading from All I See is a Part of Me. I am part of all I see, and all I see is a part of me. I am my hands, I am my feet, I am the puppy across the street. I am the moon, I am the stars. I am even finding candy bars. I used to think that I was small, a little boy, that was all. But then one day I asked the sun, "Who are you?" He beamed, "We are one." I said, "But I am here and you are there." He said, "You are there and everywhere." I asked him, "How can this be true? How can I be both me and you?" He smiled. "Go ask your sister Star. She too is a part of who you are." So I waited till the night, when darkness let me see her light. "Sister Star, how can it be that I am you and you are me?" She glowed. You are larger than you know. You are every place there is to go. You have a body, this is true, but look what's inside of you. So I closed my eyes to see within. I saw a light that made me grin. It reminded me of Sister Star. She said, "That light is who you are. Your body is just a little part of the light that shines within your heart. In all the world, in all of space, your light shines bright in every place. And when you join in dot to dot, you'll see that you is what you've got. All the plants, the animals, and trees are in your light, and you are these. Look inside each one you meet and see your light. It's so complete." Thank you for listening to me read. If you'd like to find out how the story ends, please check it out at a library near you.
Reading's fun!
What's fun?
Reading!
Where do you go to school?
Mount St. Mary's!
And what grade are you in?
5th!
And what's fun?
Reading!